Welcome back to another edition of the FGA Report. I am Brian Smith, your host, and I am joined by Tide Action head coach Harrison Smith. Harrison, good to have you on the show, buddy. How you doing tonight?
Man, I'm doing well, man. I'm glad to be on the show with such a predominant guy in this arena or this space called 707. Man, you're doing a great job. I feel like I'm on ESPN, dealing with one of the guys on there because you're very, very well known with what you're doing, and the opportunity that you give kids is priceless. I don't know. A lot of kids wouldn't even have the ability to be seen if it not from your platform. So I appreciate you having the ability to put them on social media. I appreciate the fact that you're going to these 7-on-7 events and being, proactive to say, hey, look at this kid. Because your trajectory of kids is very good. So I really appreciate what you're doing, man. And first off, I just want to say that. But I'm glad to be on your show.
Yeah, appreciate it, man. You're a guy from Southwest Georgia, Bainbridge guy yourself, back in the days when you played with a guy named Kirby Smart and all that. But
Yeah, yeah, you're right.
back in the day with the old Kirby, I remember when he played safety for the Dogs. But the purpose of this podcast, as we discussed off air, is to talk about basically Jacksonville all the way over to basically Mobile, give or take 100, 150 miles north and across. That area, predominantly outside of like Valdosta, Tallahassee, and a few towns, is pretty much rural.
Correct.
And especially since COVID and the budgets have gotten smaller and smaller and smaller, the coaches have come less, less, and less. And part of that I get, but it's really about money.
That's right.
Auburn, Alabama, Florida State, Texas, there's certain schools have so much money, it doesn't matter. But they can only take so many players.
That's
Not
right.
every kid's going to play for Nick or Kirby.
I
You know,
agree.
it's just math. We're trying to figure out ways to promote North Florida, South Georgia, South Alabama. That's what this is about. You're from the area and you live in the Tallahassee area now. You coach tight action. You got kids from Georgia. You got kids like you got the Dothan, Alabama kid. You got some Florida kids all over. Can you explain to people what it's like when you call up a coach and say, look, this kid plays at some podunk high school. I know that. But I'm telling you, I wouldn't put him on my 7-on-7 team if he was garbage. Like, how does some of those conversations go when you talk to college coaches?
Well, at this point, after doing it for like 2 decades, when I call, they usually answer the phone because they'll say if I don't talk to Harrison, he's gonna send the kid to Kirby, or he's gonna send the kid. So that has changed a lot here in the last 10 years or so. But previously, what I would do, man, if you see me taking a picture with a kid, it's not that I'm trying to take a self portrait of myself. They're not coming to see the kid unless they can see how tall they are. So I'll take a picture with them because they know how
That's
tall
right.
I am, and it validates how tall they are. Then the next thing I do, I get them to take pictures by a block. So if they're standing inside of a gym that has blocks in the back of it, they can count the blocks up to see how tall the kids are. So that has been something that has worked for me when I say, hey, look at this kid. And I cannot call. I mean, don't call about a kid who's you say is 5'8", 5'9", because they're not gonna look at them.
They don't care.
Yeah, so the guys that you see that I built the team similar to what they're recruiting. So I'm gonna have nickels that's 6'3", 6'4". I'm gonna have corners that's gonna be 6 feet tall, 6'1", because I know that's the guys that they're recruiting. Um, that's been the success of getting kids recruited from what I've been doing with tight action. I call it the Saban umbrella tree. Um, a lot of guys that I've met that are coaching. I used to go to football camp and at Alabama, and it was more like a coaching convention when we used to go there 10, 15 years ago. They had colleges from everywhere there, and they had junior colleges. And I would take kids there. I started with matter of fact, I had Felipe Franks. I don't know if you remember that guy.
Oh, yeah.
So I had Felipe and some other guys, and I would take them to camp, man, and come back home. And a lot of kids say, "No, I'm gonna go to camp with Coach Harrison." And I said, "Well, I'm not let y'all embarrass me." So I started teaching them the drills. I was like, "You got to learn the DB drills. You got to do this." And because I was from South Georgia, a lot of people would contact me and say, "Hey, can you get my kid? Or can you take my kid?" And that's how I started getting kids. And I had a little cousin named Dayon Bull. We call him Smoke. And I
That's right.
found out one good kid to get you five other kids that's good. And I've learned, man, with exposure, like what you're doing. Honestly, man, I'm not saying this because we're on this podcast. you have changed a lot of kids' life by just putting them on Twitter. It's some rural towns that you never heard of, like Donaldsonville, Georgia,
Oh yeah.
Adel, Georgia, some parts of Fitzgerald, Georgia, Albany, Georgia. It's a lot of people never heard of, like Attapulgis, Georgia, Filestown. It's little towns like that people never heard of that have dudes in them. But their high school coach, for some odd reason,
Sucked.
yeah, they don't have the
Yeah.
relationship part, I guess, to get those kids seen. And I understand why coaches don't go to some of these schools. It's like when Trey Sanders played with me. Trey Sanders stayed in Port St. Joe.
Yeah.
It's 2 hours from Tallahassee. And if you go to Port St. Joe, you're 2 hours there and 2 hours back. That's 4 hours of driving. And you went there to go see one kid. It's hard to go and do that. And South Georgia is similar. You go to a school and they may have one or two athletes at Division One, and it took you 3 hours to get there. And unless they're on a platform like you have, they're not gonna get seen. So I go through and find kids that look like guys that play college football and expose them to that. And then I use 7-on-7 to get them ready for football camp, honestly. So 7-on-7 is my platform to get kids seen and take them to football camp and verify all the things I said about them.
Well, it's awesome that you get to do that. And I mean, being from the area, you know the road to take, when to take it,
Yeah.
the guy to. I mean, all that's just part of being there. And I'm learning on the fly. But it's good to have, I know you and I know Dwight up in Jacksonville, different scouts, different high school and 7-on-7 coaches, Dwayne at C3 in Pensacola, trying to get a collective to help the kids in that area because it's a long way from Pensacola all the way to Jacksonville. People
Man,
don't realize how long I-10 is in
man, you know
Florida.
what?
It's a
And
minute now.
from Tallahassee to Pensacola, there's a gap in between there, but there's
Oof.
nothing.
No, yeah, like there's two things: mosquitoes and alligators.
That's
That's
right.
it.
You're exactly right. So I like to call myself a football liaison rather than a 7-on-7 coach because in South Georgia, they are fearful of 7-on-7 coaches. They got this persona of
No,
that's
I
a bad
know.
guy. Don't go with him. But some kids have been told if you're good enough, they'll find you. I'm like, that ain't.
Well,
You know what? Them coaches ain't coming there.
yeah.
College coaches will not just drive in South Georgia because they feel like every good kid in rural Alabama is going to a certain school.
Oh yeah, especially in Alabama. The
Yeah,
Alabama kids got it the worst because Nick is there. It's true.
yeah,
It's the state that's the most overlooked out of all the top 10 states in the country because nobody wants to try to take a kid from Nick.
yeah.
Ohio
Well,
State, Notre
I
Dame,
don't,
anybody.
I won't take no kid from Nick neither, man. I respect that guy. He's a kingpin of football to me. Like, you cross the line, and you're gonna be crossing the line again. Like, it's certain things don't bother the godfather of college football, but the rural Georgia area, man, it's so many kids.
Oh yeah.
Like a kid like Cam Davis. Cam Davis is a great athlete
Oh
from
gosh.
from Albany, Georgia. I don't know if my friend named Mike Thompson from Miami was on Twitter late one night, and Cam Davis and a kid named Stantavius Smith hit him up, and he said, "Hey man, you need to get with Harrison." So I have a camp invite, also Georgia, see Cam Davis for the first time because initially I said, "Man, I'm not going to deal with no little kid from Albany, Georgia that may be 5'6". They're gonna have big muscles everywhere, can't catch, can't do anything." When I seen the kid, I was blown away. Same thing with a kid named Rodney Hill that plays for Florida State now.
Oh yeah, 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 yeah. Southeast
Rodney Hill
Bullet.
came to come to a camp that I had, and I seen how fast he was, and I said, "Man, you go to a little small school with ain't that much talent there. Can you really run?" He goes to Under Armour camp and runs a 4.5 on a laser. Right now in Florida State, I think he's one of the top 3 kids in the 10-yard sprint as an early enrollee.
That's a good
No,
sign, brother.
right. No one would have seen that kid if those things didn't happen. Holden Grain, another kid. Holden's a great
Yeah.
quarterback. He evolved into such a great guy. As time transpired with playing 7-on-7. Because initially his team was a run team, and they changed to a passing team after the coach seen him throwing the ball and doing some things. And I will go ahead and be a prophet on this deal. There's a kid named Luke Krummerholt
Oh
from
yeah, there you go.
Benedictine. You will see him playing 7-on-7 with tight action. He is going to be one of the top quarterbacks in the country.
Oh, absolutely. I saw
Yeah,
him this past weekend.
yeah.
I'm
He
like, who in the world is that kid? He's got a cannon.
He has a cannon. I seen Adam Hopkins over in Thomasville, Georgia. He's a good kid. Moultrie has a tight end that's pretty good.
Oh yeah, he
Now,
had Power Fives as a freshman.
yeah. Now Tipton, Georgia has a tight end. I can't remember his name, but they got a big, tall kid in Tipton. Oh my God, he looked like the kid from Moultrie. He does, man. Like I went to go scrimmage against 229 and seeing the kid. I was like, man, this kid is definitely a Power 5 kid, but I don't know if he's gonna get recruited as such. Again, you are changing people's lives by them being projected on Twitter, all social media forms by you. I promise you, man, you change kids' life. The kid that I have named Keyon Brown.
Oh, he's a dude.
Man,
he could play for any school in the country.
He can play for any school. And the fact that, the things that you're putting out there on him, his videos, his personality, and the fact that he ran 21 miles per hour.
That's not slow, my friend.
It's not slow. And he's 6'3".
Yeah,
he's 6'3", 187. Him, yeah. Amari Borden, and Kenneth Kelly. Man, I really appreciate, the things that you're doing with those kids. And South Georgia have Donaldsonville, Georgia, to Albany, Georgia, to Colquitt, Georgia, Miller County, Georgia. It's teams
Waycross, all over the place.
Waycross. Yeah. It's some little small towns, like I say, I know Metcalf, Georgia, they got kids, they got dudes. If they don't play 7-on-7 and get exposed to something that you're doing, man.
Yeah, I mean, I can't go to like a high school game in 50 places in a night.
Right.
However, if everybody comes to one high school tournament meeting 7-on-7, I can walk around, literally. I can do a spin in the middle of a field and see 4 different teams all together playing 2 on each side of the field and see 20 Division I players.
Yeah.
It's the only way I can do it. You know what I mean? Like you and I go to Under Armour, we get to go to that stuff, and that's kind of the exception. But there are only a few of those a year. I can see 7-on-7 every weekend for 6 freaking months. Yeah. That's why it's so vital, and that's why people, you can't get recruited. Baloney. That's garbage.
I had a kid last year named Wyatt Sullivan.
Oh, man, he's a dude.
Yeah, so he ended up committing to a school prior to signing to the school he initially went to from 7-on-7. But nobody had never seen him. So I'm going to ask you a question. How do I be transparent to kids that are from rural areas about being exposed, like exposure? What can I say to them to get them to be on a platform so they can be seen?
I think it's twofold. Number one, they have to feel comfortable with the person in question. And then once they're comfortable, the bigger thing is you talk to the parent. Parents are going to hear what, like you talked about in South Georgia, a lot of South Georgia coaches are weary of 7-on-7 guys. And some of them are scumbags. Some of, you and I know some of the guys. Some of them are. You got to use your own, hey, I don't invite just everybody on my freaking podcast. Okay,
I know
there's some guys. I'm like,
but most of the kids from South Georgia come from they come from a one household parent, and the parent believes if the kid is eligible to play football at a high school, they feel like they're eligible to go to college. I've talked to kids that don't even understand core requirements, or
that's because their coaches are idiots.
Yeah, I'm like, they don't even know that there's a requirement for core classes to go to college. They don't know they got to have 10 before their senior year. They have no clue of what it is. They don't know.
That's on the guidance counselors too. Like that, the school has to do that too.
They don't know
so
about
it's 2 levels. Yeah, that's embarrassing. And they wonder why our educational system is trash. Right there is, I mean, you have to give the information to the people you're trying to give the data to. Like, do your job.
All right. So help me with this. So if you're good enough, they find you in the country or not? Like if you're in a rural area, you're good enough, they find you.
Find you and recruit you are not one and the same.
All right, let me hear it.
How many airports are within an hour radius of where you live? We both know the answer to this. There's one. Tallahassee. 2 hours, you can go to Panama City. So it's iffy. It's, I don't know, it's an hour or whatever to Panama City, maybe an hour and 20 minutes. But that's it. If you and I get in a car from your house and we hop on I-10, we ain't hitting no freaking airport for another 2 hours and 20 minutes.
That's right.
And that's hauling ass.
That's right.
Pensacola. Okay. Right. And coaches ain't trying to fly into Pensacola by and large either. And that's another story for another day. But Pensacola to Mobile per capita is about as good as it is in the country for high school football. But there's one kid at each school, and there's 2 or 3 like Daphne or Blunt or something like that. The coaches want one-stop shopping because
Yep.
the AD at the school says we got our butts killed by COVID. Make it work.
Right.
It's like corporate America. Look, there is no fair in recruiting.
That's right.
None. If you were at Podunkville, like you were and Kirby were at Bainbridge, you better be a dude. Like Kirby got lucky to go to Georgia. I don't know. I don't know what he did. He looks like a big slow white guy to me, but he played in the SEC.
His daddy was the head coach.
Well, I mean, he was well coached and he would hit the crap out of you. For anybody wondering, he could play. But the kids like Kirby are the exception, not the rule. Right. You're going to have, like, he probably went to camp at Georgia 3 years in a row. He was probably a Georgia fan his whole freaking life. That'd be my guess.
He was a smart kid, too. He was a smart.
Oh, yeah. You could tell he's academically inclined. But Georgia, Auburn, Florida State, Alabama, maybe Florida, those schools are going to recruit right here. But even that's only about 100 or so scholarships in a year. And like Kirby and all those guys, they recruit nationally now. Like the corner Ringo, he's from LA.
Right.
He doesn't care about, look, there is no state allegiance anymore. Right. Now that Nick is recruiting, and Kirby copies everything Nick does. We all know that. Everybody, it's just true. There's none to the state of Georgia. Georgia, to me, per capita, is my favorite state that's a big state because from top to bottom, and again, like you said, Podunkville or Atlanta, like Atlanta's unbelievable.
Yes.
You can find players at any position in the state of Georgia. Quarterback, it's why I like it better than Fort because they got quarterbacks all over the state. It's just true.
That's right.
But if you're at Podunkville in South Georgia, like south of Macon or something like that, unless you get on 229 or Cam's team or your team or somebody, Team Dimes, who the hell is going to find you? There's no airports down there. You got that humongous airport in Atlanta, which I despise. It's a pain in my butt. And I know you hate it too without asking you. Everybody hates it. But there's no other airport.
You're right.
These guys are flying in. They're going to drive around the loop to all the public schools and private schools around the edge of the city. Hell, they don't even go see the inner city kids.
That's right.
And then they go to Gwinnett and they'll go up to Buford and they go right back to that airport and they go. That's how it works. It's not about fair. It's not about I'm really good. They might have seen your film, but they'll find a kid in their opinion.
That's right.
In the big city and spend less money. Period. Story over.
Yeah.
That's how it works. So to make it change, you've got a couple of options. You can go to JUCO or something, maybe get there or whatever. But if you want to go out of high school to play at Florida State or pick whatever school you want, go to their camp. Okay, that's fine. But that's just like a one-day thing. But if you play over and over again in 7-on-7, hint, do it. You can go on visits, like you take kids to school, like UCF a couple weeks ago. They had like 3 or 4 different teams bring their whole team.
That's right.
To their campus.
Yeah.
Miami Immortals, SFE. Those teams, I mean, they got so many guys. It's insane. Just those 2 teams.
Right.
If you're not, I mean, Brandon Ennis is getting recruited anyway, but because Ennis is on that team, there are other kids that got exposure.
That's right.
That wouldn't have otherwise. And even if UCF doesn't take that kid, coaches all know each other. They get on the phone and say, look, we're full outside linebacker, but you need to recruit this kid. That's how this works.
Yep.
So if you're not on 7-on-7, you just missed a chance to get exposure just with one guy picking up the phone and calling his buddy he used to work with at UAB or Florida State, whatever. You have to be in the network. Yeah, 7-on-7 is the network.
Yeah, because I've been able to talk to college coaches because, again, when Kirby first went to Alabama, I would go over there and visit. Matter of fact, the first time I went, it was a guy named Harrison Smith from Tennessee there. For real. This true story. They kept calling the guy name to come see Coach Saban in his office, and me and him kept showing up together.
Oh, you talking about the kid that ended up at Notre Dame?
That Notre Dame.
Then he said, that guy, he's a dude.
Yeah,
he's from Knoxville. He's from Knoxville. Yeah.
Yeah, he was from Tennessee, and they kept saying Harrison Smith, Coach Saban want to see you. Man, this dude would end up in the office at the same time. So that was my first introduction to Coach Saban without, Kirby coming and saying, hey, this guy from my school, whatever. And I remember the guy Reuben Foster and Isaiah Crowell, because at that time, they was bringing in some, like they are now dudes. Now, because of the coaches that I met and the GAs, that's how I end up knowing so many coaches now. Because at some point, like Napier, Billy was a wide receiver coach. Came from Clemson, went to, he was at Florida State for a couple of seconds and then left and went to Alabama. I met Billy at Bama camp, coaching wide receivers. I had some kid with me named Keith Gavin. So I'm over there and meet Billy, Jordan Frank's Felipe brother. I meet Billy, I meet Mario. All the guys that I really know right now, I met a lot of them actually by visiting the school myself at Bama camp. And all those guys now are usually head coaches or position coaches. Doug Belk was with Kirby Smart as a GA. Now he is,
Man,
yes, he's
he's a
over in
hot
Houston
name,
now.
man.
Yeah. But I met Doug initially as Kirby GA. Derek Ansley had came from a little small school called Huntington. He was Kirby GA when I first met him. Derek Ansley came from Huntington College. He was Kirby's GA, and that's how I met Derek Ansley initially. Now he's coaching NFL, but he's been a defense coordinator. Jeremy Pruitt. I met Jeremy Pruitt at Alabama. So a lot of guys that I know now, I know what they're looking for and the skill set they're looking for. So I'm able to take those guys and introduce them, to guys I know can offer them scholarships and give them a fair chance at playing at some point.
Well, it's pretty cool. Like I put them on Twitter, but they have to play for somebody, and you got to take them around. I don't think people realize how much money and time go into it. And I'm sure the following has happened at the Harrison Smith household
Man,
5,000
if I call
times.
my wife in here right now,
Yeah, there it is.
yeah. So you'll be surprised how much I get accused of. Somebody's paying that man. I said, well, who's paying your preacher to preach for you at church? Like he's getting paid to help you out. So the biggest issue that I usually have with people is he must be getting paid from the colleges. I'm like, if I was, I'd be a much happier guy. But I'm trying to help some kids that's come from an area that I come from. I had nobody helping me recruiting. So my life give back was I'm gonna help kids from impoverished areas, poverty, rural area. Because at some point I was over a department in a bank with housing, so I used to be over mortgages. Then I started doing NFL concussion claims and doing disability claims with a law firm. So my way of giving back, I grew up in a church, so I always thought the people were the church. So I was like, I'm giving to children as if I'm giving to church. So the ones that didn't have the funds, to me, man, I was giving money, helping them go visit schools. I put them in a van, and we'll just pile up in a car and go get it. So it was like something inside of me driving me to do that. Nobody came to me and said, "Hey, Harrison, let's do this." Now Kirby initiated the fact of, "Hey, bring some kids from South Georgia and for Tallahassee to the football camp." But after that, I was driven by a passion to help kids, regardless of background, race, color. I've had all kind of kids, but I was driven by a passion that I can't even explain to people. Now I've been taken advantage of by people that understood the passion because when they hear me talk about the relationships I have, they go and try to create the same thing, and then they charge kids and use my name to do it. They say, "Hey, me and Harris are friends. We doing this together, whatever," and I don't know nothing about it. But I've been fortunate enough, man, where Ronnie Harrison was a guy that was my nephew. He was with me. He was recruited by North Carolina, committed to him. Taking the Bama camp. He runs a 40-yard dash. They measure him at 6'3", 190. He goes to Bama and play for 3 years and get drafted. If I don't take him to Bama camp, they never see him. Like it's stories like that with him and Trey Sanders and other kids that I could tell you, man, that have it influenced me. Every time I say I'm gonna stop doing it, I was like, man, you know what? I'm tired of this. It's burning me out. Some people are not appreciative of it. Then all of a sudden, it hit backs again. Then I find somebody like, okay, man, I'm gonna do this one more time and be done with it. So that's been my drive, man, just to help save kids' lives. I don't have a sponsor yet, so a lot of things is done, out of my own pocket, and or just asking people for, I get 30 people to send me $20 because I got a lot of friends, that are, givers. So I like ask for money to help do whatever. So that's how I've been able to survive with this stuff that I'm doing.
Well, it's a process because the area that you live in, like there's some money in Tallahassee. It's a college town, but those people ain't trying to help 7-on-7 so much. As soon as you go 10
No,
minutes outside of Tallahassee, you and I have talked about this before. It's rural ghetto. It's just weird.
man.
It ain't got a color. It's just poor in general. No matter if white people, but
Yep.
it's poor.
So you,
And
you never heard of
those
Attapulgis,
kids,
Georgia? So I grew up in a little town called Attapulgis, Georgia. It might be 400 people there. But I think we had one caution light. We had one
Oh
caution
wow.
light, and all we did was play football with coca bugs. I know you don't know what that is, a pine cone. So we didn't have a real football. We'll play with a pine cone. Now Marcus Burke that plays for Trinity, his dad was my neighbor.
Oh
All we did,
wow.
yeah, Marcus Burke, dad name is Charlie Burke from a little town called Attapuggis, Georgia. And so one side of my yard was Attapuggis, the other side was Filestown because my grandmother lived on the county line. But we went shopping in Florida because it was closer. So it's some rural parts of South Georgia, man. Dudes, like for real dudes that, going to a college football game for them is like going to an NFL game. It's some kids right now, Brian, that have never been to a college football game in South Georgia.
Oh, there's probably half of them.
And all they coach got to do is put them in a van or a bus issued by the school, call
Yeah.
Florida State and say, I'm bringing some kids to a football game. That's it.
Yeah. Don't get me started on that. That's a
Oh,
whole nother
I won't. But
conversation. But
yeah,
yeah, I
so
know. It's bad.
it's a lot of kids in rural Georgia, man. So again, if it's not for you, man, I don't a lot of if you're not reporting what we're doing, we're still doing it in vain anyway. Because
Yeah,
then
you
I
gotta
got
have
I got to
media. You gotta have it. Gotta have it.
so I have to wait till junior day or go to football camp for guys to be seen. And because of your platform, college coaches are calling me and saying, I seen a kid on Twitter. And that's giving them opportunity to be seen, man. And from my perspective, man, you've been a lifesaver by just being in position to talk about kids. The story that you're telling about Cam Davis have encouraged so many kids from that little rural area over in Albany, Georgia. I've got so many phone calls about, hey, can you help my son? Or can you tell me what to do? Until you would not even believe it. A kid from Albany, Georgia, being promoted in an area on social media has impacted not only his life, but people in his neighborhood. Because now they're saying it's some hope for us to get out of here. And now they
Yeah.
starting to say, hey, what can I do to get on that platform? So you've impacted people, man, by just on a mission. Matter of fact, at some point, tell me how you got into what you're doing and why you do it.
I've always been a football nut, and I grew up a big Notre Dame fan when they were good late '80s, early '90s, and they had tons of players. A lot of Florida Georgia kids, as a matter of fact. And I always followed like Tom Lemming and different guys. And then once the internet started, the mid '90s, I was on a random message board. And the guy said, "Hey, I'm going to start a recruiting site," and I sent him an email. Literally, that was it.
Wow.
And then Rivals, we did okay. And then Rivals started, and I got in with them, and it's just, and I've worked with different platforms on and off behind the scene. I've done a lot of scouting off the record and stuff. And one of my buddy called me a couple years ago and said, I'm going to go work for Sports Illustrated. I want to get you on a site. He knew Florida was my thing, and I was living down here. He's like, this is perfect for you. He was right. And now I'm just trying to, I run Inside the Nights on Fan Nation powered by Sports Illustrated, but I really try to be broad, for lack of a better term, because think of it this way. There isn't a state east of the Mississippi that doesn't recruit in South Georgia, Florida, Alabama. You almost have to recruit here because it's so dense.
Yeah.
So I can talk about the Iowa Hawkeyes as a random point. They're recruiting here. They have
Yeah.
to. They just signed a running back from Deerfield Beach.
Yeah.
That's about as far away from Deerfield as you can get socially, culturally, everything. But I talk about it from a broad spectrum. I try to help people from other areas understand, hey, this is why you recruit. Like, you put up that video, the one I did at Cam last year where he caught the ball by the goalpost.
Yes.
I can't explain, like you and I know him personally, it's a little different. You can't explain how physically gifted a kid is through words.
Right.
You need video. And the article I put up today had that video in it and some other stuff. Like, he's physically different and he's a nice kid.
Right.
He's a shorter Bo Jackson type athlete.
Yes.
He's just as good in baseball as he is at football, blah, blah, blah. And, we'll do some more stuff with him over the next couple of seasons. It's scary. He's got 2 years of high school left. Those are the kind of kids that don't get any exposure. I'm just more inclined to give the ones exposure that are cool kids like him, because there's a lot of kids that are jerks that can play ball. You and I know them.
That's
a lot of them. And we could do a podcast on the idiot brigade that I know. But that's why a lot of them don't end up in the NFL, because when they call you, like if Nick calls you, He doesn't ask you if he can play. Nick can watch and see that in 30 seconds. He wants to know what the kids are doing off the field. And those are the same questions I get by SEC coaches, coaches in the Big Ten or whatever. Hey, is this kid going to give me problems?
Right.
So I like to go out and do my own investigating, talk to people at restaurants, talk to the AD, yeah, all those off the record. Those are the most important things we do. But the only way to do it is face to face.
You
You
know
can't
what?
sit in your desk and do it. Can't do it.
That's why I actually have kids on my team. So when I vouch for them, I vouch for them on a personal basis of I've been around them. I've
That
needled
makes a
into them to see how they're
difference.
gonna respond. I've seen them interact with other kids to see if they're good teammates. I did things to try to make sure that if I tell you that Brian Smith is a good dude and he's a good player, then I'm telling you based off of the experience that I had with him. And the fact that you trust me that I'm not gonna do something to jeopardize your job security, then I've been successful at it because I try to make sure that my word is good on the kid, and that goes back to the height weight deal. If I tell you he's 6'3", you can believe that he's 6'3". If I tell you he's 5'9", he ain't 5'7", 5'8", he's 5'9". And the thing that I'm starting to see now more of, man, is like you said, the videos by somebody like yourself putting those things out there and exposing those kids to opportunity is life changing. I don't know many platforms, that has the ability to impact the kid's life like you do. So I'm sticking close to you at any tournament I can. Make sure if you need water, make sure you need anything, make sure nobody bother you because your input and your video that you put out on kids is impeccable to anything, man. I'm blown away to even be on a podcast with such a famous guy like yourself, man.
I don't know
So
about famous. That's a little strong. That's yeah.
hey,
When you,
the kids that I know, they love what you do, man. That,
I enjoy it though. That's the thing. Like if you're good at something, you're more than likely pretty passionate about it.
yeah,
And I like football, and I for whatever reason, one of my buddies said, "You don't really do NFL, do you?" And I said, "No." And he goes, "Why?" And I said, "When I go to a high school or college game, the fans and the energy around is real.
yeah.
At a pro game, not that some of the fans aren't passionate, that would be a lie, but it's as much about the gambling, the getting drunk, and somebody just bringing his trophy wife as it is the football, and that's not me. So you and I go to a game at Ware County in Ware Cross, town shuts down.
Just right.
You and I go to a game at Niceville, town shuts down.
Right.
We know the deal. South Georgia, Florida, it's different.
Yep.
So that's what I'm there for, the experience. It's not as like if I went in the NFL, worked for Jerry Jones somehow, I'd make more money. You don't have to convince me otherwise. But I enjoy what I do, and there's always a chance to do that later, maybe. But I'm cool with being a high school guy, and I'm working with DR7 now. DR Sports. We're going to have platforms like this all over the South, Gulf Shores. I'm trying to figure out a way to do some stuff in the North Florida, South Georgia area. I mean, you got to have enough fields and all that.
I definitely have a venue. Matter of fact, Cam Davis, I've spoke to Coach Johnny Gilbert up there in
Okay.
Albany, Georgia, and he's open to us having something there.
Oh, really? Now,
Yes. Now,
Central Georgia would be great because that would be accessible to so many places. And Albany's not that far from 75.
yeah, and they actually has state championship games there. I think in the past with certain things with track and other things.
Well, if you
But
can get just 5 fields, it'd be enough to have some kind of tournament.
and they have turf fields. So I got a friend of mine
Ooh.
who coaches with the Grind Factory, who's talking
Oh, yeah,
about
yeah, yeah.
yeah, Glenn. So we're
Glenn's
talking
good
about
dude.
today the stuff that I do with Domo to have maybe teams come and not even have to pay a fee. We just figure out how to raise money to pay for the umpires and have good referees and have something to help kids be, a different experience and be exposed. And it's something like I said with me, it's a gift and a passion that sometimes I may try to shut it off as soon as I do something to open up, like what you're doing. I was questioning whether or not I even do 7-on-7 this year. And I was like, man, I don't know. Then all of a sudden things break open. Kids' lives will change. So I'm driven by the passion and a gift. Amari Borden has a little brother
Oh, he
named
can
Dalen
play.
Green.
He can play.
Yeah, he could play, man. The kid is 6 feet tall, 13 years old. He probably would be the next 5-star kid that comes out of tight action. I think Cam Davis is going to be a 5-star. Trey Sanders is one. There's
Now,
a
Cam
big.
Davis is a 5-star. Period.
Hey, when I first told people about Cam Davis, like, man, I don't believe the kid look like that. And now when they see him, they're blown away saying, no,
No,
that
he's a
kid
grown ass man.
is a grown ass man, man. I ain't know I could curse on your podcast or nothing, but he's a grown ass man.
Oh no, for him, it's okay.
Yeah, he's a grown ass man. And again, like Luke Crummerhawk, the kid played every position on the field. Um, Tyler Jefferson, a big, strong guy that's going to probably cause some people to make some business decisions when they try to tackle him at quarterback, when he goes, at some point to go play college football. But my passion for rural Georgia and the rural parts of Florida, man, is driven by the things I seen as a kid myself. I didn't I didn't see a lot of football scouts coming to Bainbridge when I was a kid.
Yeah, you never will either.
Oh, hey, and this is the other thing I tell people in rural Georgia. They think that college coaches read their newspaper. They do. They like, my kid was
That's
in the
called the
newspaper.
uneducated right
Yeah,
there.
it's like my son was in the newspaper. I'm like, the college coaches don't read no local newspaper from out of town. They
You're
don't
lucky
look
if
at no damn news.
they don't read the Atlanta newspaper.
Right. I was like,
Yeah.
stop saying my kid is in the paper. Like, don't fuss at the people because your son is not in the paper.
Nobody
And stop,
cares.
yeah.
Nobody cares.
Start recording your son games, put it on social media. Find somebody like Brian Smith and say, look at, my son, because everybody think their son the next whoever.
Oh, don't get me started on
Yeah.
that either.
And
It's
my
terrible.
DM is full of kids that he's the next Derwin James or he whatever. Like, Harrison, why my son can't play with you? Because I can't help him. I can't help a 5'3" kid. No, like, you only gonna take the kids that's no brainers. Yeah, because they're the one who's I can help. I cannot help a 5'3" quarterback. I cannot do it.
I had to show a parent. I said, "This is why your kid's not going to big school." You know what I did?
What?
I got on my phone and I typed in Shamar Stewart huddle, and I hit play and I put it in front of her. She watched for 30 seconds. She hit stop and she handed me the phone and she walked away.
Yeah,
I mean, that's what they want.
Yeah. I'm fortunate, and again, that's why I have 6'1" corner, 6'3" nickel, a 6'2" linebacker,
There you
a
go.
6'4" nickel, a 6'2.5" safety, and a 6'3" safety, because I know that's what they're looking for. And I'm trying to. So Brian, my team is built with rural guys that fit the profile of guys they're looking for.
100%. When I saw him this past weekend, there wasn't a kid out there that was quote unquote out of place. Even like you said, Borden's little brother. I mean, he's young, but you can tell he's a long-legged kid. He's going to be a good football player. He's just got to get bigger and stronger because he's so young. And he was the only guy out of place at all, and he was still able to play with kids 3 to 5 years older than him.
Hey,
what's he going to be in 2 years?
Right. Hey, so listen, you remember the kid Webb that plays for Trinity now?
Yeah.
He was similar to Borden's little brother, Dalen Green.
Well, he grew up.
He grew up fast. So similar to this kid. This kid can probably be about 6'3.5", 6'4", and he's already dunking in middle school.
Oh, I believe it.
So there's a camp at Florida State called Southern Exposure Camp that's gonna have a bunch of middle schoolers there. And man, you're gonna be blown away when I see the pictures of these kids. They're not the same. They're elite kids. But I will take your advice, man, and say, look, make sure it's just not about what you say, but what you show.
Oh yeah.
And
personality off the field is what coaches. You know that too. You got to know what you're doing, and the parents they're not gonna like it. They got to get their kids in front of people, which means they got to spend money and travel.
Right.
There's no exception to that.
Okay.
You can show this part right here to them.
Yeah.
That I just said, fire away.
Yeah.
Staying in little towns like Bainbridge.
Yeah. No, I'm laughing because I've tried to say it, but when they hear it from somebody else,
right?
Like,
look, this is what I do for a living. This is fact. I am the oracle on this. You can like it or not. I don't care if you like me. That's a fact. They are not coming to Bainbridge.
That's right.
They ain't coming. There's about 5 schools that are recruited. That's it.
That's about it. And if you're from, hey, listen, this is the thing I've seen too. If you're from South Georgia, they are assuming that you're going to the University of Georgia if you're good, because somebody at that school is tied to the University of Georgia.
Yeah. They don't want to get turned down. These college coaches got egos, man.
That's right. Now, I heard Jimbo Fisher say something. He said, I want kids from that red clay because they're just different. So he'll try to recruit kids from South Georgia and from some of these rural towns because they understand that they're just built different. Those
Yeah,
kids don't want to go home. Um, I can talk to some kids now, man, when they leave. Some kids that never been to Orlando.
that's
I got
sad.
kids that been with me. They never been to Orlando before, man. They they never been outside of the city, and it's like they go to a 7-on-7 event. It's like, oh my god, they blown away with the people there. Some of them, first of all, moved in slow motion because they never seen that many people come see something like that.
That's funny to me. I mean, I was exposed to a lot as a kid, so that surprises me. I traveled quite a bit.
Oh man,
It's different for everybody.
it is, man. But the part that you're sharing right now tonight, I guarantee somebody's life has changed by watching this podcast to understand. I have to get my kid in front of somebody. I tell the kids a story about the Jackson family. I said Joe
Oh,
Jackson made sure that Jermaine, Tito, and Michael and the whole Jackson crew was practicing hard. Then he put them in front of Barry Garden and say, "Dance. Um, you practice hard. When you come where I'm at, I'm gonna put you in front of Brian Smith and say, look, show your talent.
that's
If you
what you
don't
got to do.
showcase your talent, because I had one parent say, well, he only had one chance to do it. I was like, there's only one opportunity at this point. When you go visit a football camp, they're gonna
That's
go off
right.
first impression. If you don't
Boom.
do well, they're gonna say, I seen your film, but I got to move on to the next guy. So it's taking full benefit of the opportunity to showcase your talent, and that's what I've been able to do. And I got people that put money to this disadvantaged youth foundation that I have to try to help. Then I just beg for money. Honestly, I actually literally beg for money and say, help me. If you help me with these young men, one young man to change the whole city. That's my motto. The children are the church to me. Now, my wife, if I go get her out of the room and there, she'll say, hey, Harrison spent a lot of time with these kids, and some of them appreciate it, some of them say thank you, and some of them don't. But I told her I don't do it for the thank you from the kids. I would much rather see them be productive citizens than to see them around town. These rural towns, man. If I go through I'm gonna go do a video through the rural town. You will see
Oh yeah.
kids. You'll see kids walking down the street, man, that was good athletes one time in high school, and their lives are totally upside
Yeah. Oh
down
yeah. Oh, I've seen it.
because they never had the opportunity. And then in rural Georgia, if you get a speeding ticket, you might be on probation because they don't have the money to pay for it, and they end up on probation. Then you get something else, and then next thing you know, you're in jail over nothing, over speeding ticket. And man, my mission in life right now and going forward is to find kids in those rural areas, man, and help impact their lives, and to find people like yourself, man, and put them on the platform to help them. I'm very appreciative of the fact that I can have a 7-on-7 platform to speaking to kids' lives and change their lives. I'm probably tougher on them than any high school coach ever been because they're the best kids on their team most of the time. So I love on them real hard and I coach them hard. And they'll say, coach will tell you something and be laughing at the same time. I said, because it ain't personal. I'm trying to get you in a position to change your family life. Because most of these kids come from one parent household
Yeah, that's right.
and they're not used to a man telling them something because they're the man at the house. And when a man tells them something, they have some conflict. So we breaking a lot of molds on that part about just being a man and having accountability for whatever they're doing. So that's been my statement, and fortunate enough to um, had a kid in the All American game, Under Armour, and with the other outfit. Every year I've been having kids that are 4 stars, 5 stars that show up and want to be part of what we're doing. I've been very fortunate to have Division 1 quarterbacks that are Power 5 guys every year, and some FCS guys. So I'm just fortunate, just to be in that arena, man. Like for real, it's not a it's not a kid that I wouldn't want to help. Sometimes financially I can't help everybody, so I'm limited on what I can do. But
Yeah.
fortunate enough, man, come across kids' lives that are impacted, man, for the good. And again, if it wasn't not for you, man, a lot of it couldn't happen. I
Well, I
mean,
appreciate that. We'll get together on some more tournaments this year. I know I'm getting ready to head out to Dallas this next weekend. I got stuff going on in between, so that's what I like to do. But Harrison, thank you very much for coming on the show. Stay on here with me real quick. But everybody hit like, subscribe, and hit that notification button. This is what I do. We try to talk some football, some Georgia, some Florida, some Alabama. And there's just so much talent here, as Harrison knows. He grew up in it, and he's now a part of it. This is a great place to live. If you like pigskin,
Man.
down south, brother, this is what's up. So everybody be safe. Thank you very much.